Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Roisentul, your host, and today I'm going to interview Alex Green. He's the co-founder and CEO at Picky Story. Picky Story helps merchants to increase AOV through a complete upselling and cross-selling platforms. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation because we're going to talk about how you can increase your average order value. We're going to talk about acquisition and retention tips and many other interesting stuff. So stay tuned. Before talking to Alex, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. I mean, we get it. Customer acquisition costs are going up. There's lack of tracking. Attribution is driving you nuts, right? And audience sizes are getting smaller and smaller after the iOS 14 update. If that wasn't enough, there are other factors such as the recession and supply chain issues making it harder than ever to grow your e-commerce brand. That's why we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy, as what used to work doesn't anymore. Here at BSR Digital, we have been helping countless e-commerce brands that wanted to scale their business to the next level through paid ads and email marketing for over a decade. So if you want to learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, or you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Alex here with me. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Great to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I would love for you to start telling the audience more about your story. So why don't you start there?
Cool, yeah. So basically, maybe a little bit on the personal level, 32, married plus one, and basically from Tel Aviv, from Israel. Like, this is our base. My background is stats, mathematics, been in different companies in the past couple of years in tech, like Visible, Wix, before I started Picky Story. Did a lot of performance marketing and data science and data research type of things. So that's my background. And maybe a little bit about Picky Story and who we are. So we're two co-founders, two friends. My partner Eugene is our CTO, and geek nerd from age of 12, coding, and been in the in different military units, intelligence units, and then VP R&D in different places. Sun Microsystems, also an entrepreneur for many years, and that's basically where we're coming from. That's our background. So I'm the blah blah guy, and he's the actual guy who builds stuff. So that's who we are.
Okay, awesome. Let me tell you that I love Israel. I have relatives there in the north, in Rosh Pina, near Sfat, and I've been there a few times, and I really love it. And I hope I go visit soon in the future. It's a beautiful country, full of history and pretty cool seasides.
We hope to see you here, Brian. Let us know.
And the food, don't get me started there. I mean,
the food is the best.
Amazing. Yeah, I really love the food. I mean, here in Argentina, we don't have we find some, Middle East food, but it's not like there. And I mean, yeah, don't get me started there.
But you're also known for your cuisine, right? Like Argentina, you're known for it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. I want the Middle East food. I like that more. But I guess we like what we don't have, right?
You're not alone, Brian. A lot of people, find it as the number one, but I'm biased, so.
Okay. So I know for sure. I wanted to tell the audience, for everyone listening or watching this video, that we had a pretty interesting conversation in the prep call. I typically do prep calls, to make sure that this is a fit, to make sure that we have a lot of value to deliver to you guys listening or watching. So we had a pretty interesting conversation around acquisition, but mainly about retention, because things have changed, and 2023 is not the same as 2022, and 2022 was not the same as 2021 or 2020, right? If we do a quick recap on 2020, we had the pandemic. The boom of e-commerce was there. Everyone was worried about, being able to deliver and to fulfill all the orders that were coming in. Then in 2021, there was a slight decrease in e-commerce, but then iOS 14 was released, creating a huge nightmare for brands and advertisers, the loss of tracking and many other issues. And of course, then now in 2022 or then in 2022, the recession, inflation, and many other global factors, plus supply chain issues and many other things you mentioned in the intro. So retention, the retention game is more important than ever. So we are going to talk about that. And I would love to start about the AOV, the average order value. So what can brands do to increase the average order value? What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, that's really just to give maybe a little bit of context to our audience. That's really where we are focused as well as a company. We really think about AOV. We live the AOV. We live the uplift of the revenue. That's what we do. And AOV becomes more and more important. AOV, it's a pretty, if we give it a little bit of background, AOV, it's a pretty more advanced KPI for merchants than the regular basic things that we all know, right? Like CPI or even ROAS or ROI on, ad spend, how much a click cost, how much revenue I received per, specific product, because these things are very straightforward, very easy to calculate, and very easy to influence, right? If I want to get more money for a specific product, get more revenue, I can just increase the price. And if I want to be more competitive, I will increase my click bid, and so on and so on. So I think the merchants start their life cycle with a very straightforward KPI, very basic, like any other business, not only merchants. And then as they start growing a little bit, and taste the success, they understand that, okay, it's not only a game of click to click or click to purchase. I need to look at this a little bit more deeply. And this is when usually they're getting to the AOV question. Like they're ready in their mindset to say, okay, wait a second. We got the audience. Okay, we understand who we are pretty much. We know pretty much what are we selling, right? We know how to bring audience to our store or to our ecosystem. Sometimes it's more than a store, could be an app as well and other things. And now we see that they're buying and they're starting to talk about, okay, but per customer we're making X or Y or Z, and let's talk about this, okay? Because they understand, okay, I can bring more and more and more people into my store, but it constantly costs me more and more and more dollars. Now, if I'm putting into the game really good amount of dollars, let's see what I can do once they're already hitting me. So sometimes they think about this as each customer has some kind of a potential behind him or her, right? And I'm as a brand, if I'm doing my merchandising the right way, and I'm actually picking the right things to show to the right customer, I can get more of this potential that comes into my store. So this is really where the game of AOV begins. Once I understand that it's not a one-to-one game, because not always the mindset that people come with to a store, that this is actually the mindset that they will end their shopping journey with. What I mean is a lot of the things are unplanned. A lot of the things are spontaneous. A lot of the things are based initially, a lot of the decision-making process is based on my previous knowledge about the brand, about my expectations from the brand and all of that. So I think actually I'm a really good example for this because I'm not buying almost anything. I don't know why. But and when I'm coming to a specific store, it's very hard to convince me to buy something that is, beyond what I planned ahead of time. And the ability of a brand to showcase a little bit more of its story, not in a fluffy way, but in a very practical way. Show me a little bit more of what you're doing and how it connects to what I actually wanted. And maybe you will open up a door to convince me to learn more about other things. And here again, you're starting the AOV game. So just to do an initial recap, AOV at the beginning, a couple of years ago, even 2 years ago, was a game of merchants who were a bit more advanced. And of course, the bigger brands, the growing brands. Now, I think it becomes more and more and more a prominent, like super consensus type of thing, because of all the things that you mentioned as well, right? You said acquisition costs, you said competitiveness there, you said iOS 14, right? All the things that we all know that becoming, harder and harder and harder to acquire customers. So we need to make sure that we're treating them the right way in order to maximize the revenue that we're making per customer. And this is exactly where AOV comes in. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's very interesting everything you said. And I would love for you, if you can, of course, tell the audience like a few specific ways that they can increase the AOV through Piggy Story.
Yeah, so basically, what we do in order to support merchants and help them really structure these type of what we call stories or experiences in the store to turn their game from a single type of buying process, single product buying process, to multi-product buying journey, is that we help them constantly. We help the merchants to help shoppers discover their products. What I mean is that if a shopper comes into your store and suddenly sees a story of your brand through your products, which means show you as a merchant showcasing different complementary products, right? You're constantly offering to upgrade things, but things that make sense. You offer free gifts. You offer different cross sells on your products. For example, if you're buying shoes, you must get also socks, right? If you're buying a computer, why not taking the better version of the computer? Yeah, you don't want the better version because it's too expensive. Maybe we'll just give you a little bit of a discount and we'll help you to make this decision. So basically what we're doing with Piggy Story, we're redesigning. I mean, all the stores are pretty much look the same, the basic structure of it. Like it's a catalog, it's a collection of products. It's a lot of products. Just, you're selling them one by one. What we do is we add experiences. We add another layer, a merchandising layer to the store, and we allow you to recreate, restructure with smart scenarios your store, so you can actually start and combining products together or create connections between products at the right moment. For example, it could be a bundle, right? You could sell, for example, a product which actually contains multiple products from your store with one click. And this single click gives you 3x the revenue that you would get from the same click just on a single product. Another option is that you can showcase the experience. One of the brands that does it amazingly is a brand called PRX Performance. It's a very well-known brand, like a very fast-growing. They were on Shark Tank as well. So they're selling home gym packages, and they just, that in a home gym package, you have like maybe 20 products, 20 SKUs. They just put all of this together in a one set that makes sense for the beginner, for the expert, for, I don't know, women, for men, whatever it's based on, whatever the breakdown is in terms of geography and demographics, and they just sell it with one click instead of letting their customers to actually go and explore the entire store and understand which specific parts are relevant to others. So that's the kind of experience that we're doing. We're also enabling merchants to have a smart cart in their store, which we call the Picky Cart, that constantly looks at the shopper's behavior and offers the shopper in the cart smart options based on the things that the shopper picked throughout the journey. So the end goal is constantly enhancing the number of products that the shopper is being revealed and actually picking and adding to the cart.
I wanted to address something you said because I think it's pretty interesting, and brand that don't often think this way, nor advertisers, which is to stop selling products and start selling experiences, right? And I have one example to mention with one of our clients not too long ago. I told you about this example in the prep call as well, because it was natural. It came up right away, and it was like, they were selling a product. It doesn't matter what, but they were selling a product, and that was like the number one, the only product they had in the store back then. Then they started introducing 2 to 3 more products, but the main product was one in their case. The other one were complementary products to that one product, right? So they weren't doing anything with that. They weren't doing any bundles, and people came to buy that one product because the other ones were probably a commodity. They could buy those elsewhere, but if they created an experience through a bundle, that would be something else. It was a product it was an intimate gel for couples, right? Through a Japanese massage technique, blah blah. But the thing is that we help them create 3 experiences. We called the experience like the magic, like the magic moment for the couple, right? So there were 3 bundles, 3 experiences before the magic, for the magic, and for after the magic, right? Because they needed different product to prep, to act, and then for the after magic, let's say. So this was cool because we were encouraging people to have a better experience, right? And that would lead the client to increase, of course, their average order value. And that was pretty cool, actually. Same with the flower shop that went online. They wanted to sell to couples who didn't have money to pay to a wedding planner or decorator, so they needed to buy the flower arrangement for their wedding. How crazy is that? I mean, I'm bad at choosing a water bottle or whatever. I'm not. I'm worse even at choosing the flower arrangement for my wedding. So we created like a quiz funnel for them, and then bundles of flower arrangements depending on the answers in the funnel, right? And that made more sense than shopping one by one each flower. Like
Exactly.
it was a supermarket. It was like, okay, you need one flower too. It's like it's too complicated. So it's all about simplifying the experience for the users when buying online and adding value, right?
Exactly. And you touched, I think, a very important point, simplifying. A lot of our customers and a lot of the brands that understand that if you want to sell more, you need to make it way more simple. And even brands that sell things that are pretty straightforward, still less clicks, less back and forth between pages, right? Less clicks on add to cart, less decision making, more sales. That's a very simple formula, right? Higher conversion rates. Now, I think simplicity is really one of the things that you do once you start, selling we call it selling the brand instead of selling the product. But you're also getting other things because when you start thinking about connections between your products, you can start thinking about retention, really, right? Because if I, for example, bought a shaving whatever machine or tool or something, or as a trimmer, whatever, and in a couple of weeks I will need a gel or I need some other complementary products. Understanding the relation between the first purchase and what we can offer to the customer on the second purchase, it's crucial. Now, what usually brands are doing today, like in the usual case, they will send you an email marketing sequence right after your first purchase, but usually with things that are unrelated to your latest purchase. I mean, if you're an advanced brand and you actually invested in it, maybe, but smaller brands, they don't really have the capacity to understand the connections between the first purchase, second, third, etc., etc. And that's exactly how you need to think about it. Because if somebody bought pants, you need to think, okay, what makes sense with these pants? How do you think about it? You need to understand it. I mean, you as a merchant, maybe you don't understand this because it's a lot of data crunching, but companies like Picky Story help you to understand how the pants are connected to other products in your store and what will make sense to offer to your customers via SMS or email or other channels to bring them back personally and get the second purchase. So this is like how do the retention on the number of visits and repurchases, but you have even more. It's even farther than that. You can think about different, as you said, different boxes before the magic, after the magic, during the magic, right? These are different products. Now, some different value propositions. Some customers will start with, during the magic, because this is my most popular offering, and this is where you start, or you can even call it. Think about the storytelling, right? This is my starting package. Most popular, start with it. You liked it, here's the connection. Again, what should I send to the customer after the first purchase to bring the customer back and make the customer purchase the second one, right? You can think about subscriptions of deals. So, right, you can do it automatically. You don't need to send in the email all the time. And maybe the last point on this one is that you said, I mean, you discussed and you said that this customer, it was very successful to them in terms of the experience and making it easier. And I think that making it easier by selling boxes that you curated, it's also a strategy, because we have two options here. One option is that you as a merchant, you know what's going on. I mean, you know what's going on in your store, you know what's popular, you know what people like. Even if you're a little bit more advanced, you know even how to break it down by audience. And you can already curate different deals or experiences that you know that they work. You know that this works, and you decide for the customer. But on the other side, and this becomes more and more popular over time, especially in recent years, you can flip it and can say, you know what? Here are my products that make sense together, or here's an experience of products that make sense together. Let the customer, the shopper, build his own type of bundle or his own type of experience. For example, an outfit, right? So you want to sell a complete look. Let's say that you're a fashion brand. You want to sell a complete look. So you're creating these 3 sections, right? One section shows only jeans. Another section shows t-shirts, and a third section shows shoes, right? And you ask the shopper, complete your own look. Like choose from here, choose from here, choose from here. So that's one strategy, which is like proactive. It's very good, by the way, for beauty brands, especially with makeup, food and beverages. Where people actually want to pick and create their own type of mix, versus things like nutrition or health or gym equipment, where it's easier for you as a brand just to sell complete sets that are already pre-made, because it makes sense and it's way easier. So you need to think about these things when you're building the experiences.
Okay, great. I mean, for those listening or watching, if you are not paying attention to this or doing this right now, you should stop and do this, right? Which is acquisition costs that are getting higher and higher, as we said. So the equation of comparing the cost per customer acquisition to a ROAS or to the AOV, that's probably not going to be enough to make a profit for every e-commerce brand. I would say for most, right? Unless you sell thousands of dollars items. So you would need to level up the retention game by increasing and the acquisition, of course, by increasing the AOV, decreasing the time between purchases, and actually caring about delivering a great customer experience. So when you promise something and they receive the product, that product is fulfilling that expectation that you created through the promises, through the marketing, and then of course, doing some creating some touch points and mapping out the customer journey and creating segments as well, right? Through different tools out there, but creating customer segments, as you said, those who bought pants, probably they need to complement that with a t-shirt, or a shirt. I'm just making it up, right? But if they bought a shirt, it's a different thing you can offer to them, depending on what makes sense. So you need to probably segment those audiences. But the long story short, you should need to start doing something for the retention side of things and not only the acquisition. But Alex, I wanted to ask you next, if you have, or what are the top mistakes that you have seen brands make, if you've seen any, right?
No, we constantly see mistakes, and we're doing mistakes. It's fine. It's not that we have all the answers, but we can see a couple of things that are just being repetitive across stores. First of all, we still see that the basic thing. Most stores just selling single products. Each product has its own page, and it's just a clicking game. It's a clicking. One of the things that I find very strange is that e-commerce didn't really change since the beginning, right? Since the 90s. Like, it's the same store, same structure, even the cart in most stores is still a page, like /cart. It's just stupid. I'm sorry, right? I mean, if you look at almost any other environment on the web, like social media, YouTube, gaming environments, all of them are based on algorithms that help you to discover content, like videos or posts or whatever. But e-commerce is still like a game of clicks. And some merchants understand that this is the vector and that they need to start looking for solutions on more on the discovery level, because it's discovery. I mean, let's be honest, most of the products are pretty, unless you're a really, really unique brand, a lot of the products are very, very similar to other products in other stores. The big change or the big difference between stores in many cases, the experience is how you put things, how you tell your story, and how you present your brand, right? And when it's hard and where it's just a standard experience, it's way harder to sell. So if you even think a little bit about the experience, how easy it is to get an understanding of your products and make it like a one-click experience, maximum two-click experience, you can get a competitive advantage only by this. So I still see, every day we're seeing thousands, hundreds of brands. We still see that most of them are using the same structures. And by the way, it's not their fault in most of the cases. All the e-commerce platforms are still, I mean, they were built as e-commerce platforms to give you the store. They're not built as merchandising platforms. They're not really helping you to sell. They're helping you to have a store. Two different things. So I think first one is think about your products as a one story, not separated multiple SKUs. Because when we talk with merchants, most all throughout the day, they always talk about SKUs and inventory and the things that really bothers them. But you cannot think about your brand as a bunch of SKUs. That's the first mistake that I see in terms of what merchants are doing every day. Another thing that maybe, and I'll give you two, because I have many, but like the two biggest ones. The second one is that merchants sometimes they compromise on how they actually run their business at the back end, and they spend a lot of time on manual. I'm talking about brands that selling a couple of hundreds of orders a month and above, right? Because less than that, it's not very important. But what we see is that a lot of them are still doing a lot of manual tasks of updating inventory and doing things manually, like selling even if they sell products together, they do everything manually. And it's a pity, I think, because there's a lot of tools, not only Pikistore, but a lot of other tools out there that can help them automate a lot of this inventory syncing with the products and how you present things and drag and drop. And you can just save this time and focus on the experience rather on the technical things. So I see a lot of merchants are still very focused on the technical things, not focused enough on the front end things, which really the most important. Not only how things look like, but how things behave. Maybe last thing. Many people don't take advantage of their own products to create new type of, I would say, referral programs or even acquisition channels that are not paid channels. I'll give an example. For example, let's say that you have 5 products or so, and you had a customer and you sold to this customer 2-3 products, doesn't matter, 1 product. Just by creating samples of your product, in some cases it makes sense, in some not. In fashion doesn't make sense, but in a lot of others make sense. If you create samples of your products, send them to your customers with the purchase, and let them and encourage them to give it to their friends, right? Like tactics that are taking advantage of their own customers, the people that they already acquired, in order to promote their brand further, are less expensive than going again to Google and Facebook and compete with clicks. And it's smarter for the long term. It's smarter because it builds your brand, it builds your story, right? And people love gifts. That's something that people don't understand. Sometimes brands are missing because they think it's cheap. It's not cheap if you're doing it right. if you're giving the right gift that doesn't cost you a lot, but tells the story of your brand with a little bit of a taste, like a small chocolate, small cream, something that they can remember you for, that's also a great way to increase revenue over time from your own customers and creates more retention. So I think these are like the big things that we see.
That's awesome. Thank you for those. One of them that I keep thinking about while you were saying it was the fact that unlike social media's algorithm, e-commerce or most e-commerce stores are static, and that's not cool, right? It's not e-commerce brand's fault. Is that the default works that way? And I know it's challenging because we spend a lot of time as users on social media, and that makes or that allows the algorithm to learn and to show us what's relevant for us. And we don't spend any like we barely spend a few minutes, if minutes or seconds, on a certain website. So probably chances for it to learn what we want are not cool. But if through certain tools out there, you can actually simulate that experience or have dynamic catalogs. And also, even if you don't have dynamic catalogs, even if you have static catalog, that doesn't mean you should have a static experience. As I said, for example, with the flower shop, I didn't mention exactly that part because I mentioned the bundle side of things, but there was a quiz saying, hey, do you want this for an event? What type of event? Is it a wedding, a baby shower? Or do you want this flower arrangement for a home? Because they did that too. So there was a beauty brand we used to work with, and they say, oh, what's your skin tone? What's your beard? It was for men. What's your beard tone? What's your hair tone? And do you have a lot of, I don't know, gray hair? Or do you have a lot of gray hair? Do you have these? Or so it was many questions just to provide you with not with the same result or the same outcome, because that wouldn't make sense, but for something that will be good for you, not only for that, but also for the size charts and many other things. A funnel that is dynamic and creates a unique experience is cool. Everything you guys do at your company as well, provide people with the right advice to buy more stuff that they need or they desire is pretty cool as well. Incentivize them to buy more because I don't know, if they do so, they will get free shipping or whatever discount. That's pretty cool as well. So you can actually create a dynamic buying experience even if you have a static catalog by simplifying the message and creating a custom experience, right?
Yeah, so that's actually that all the things that you said are they're true, but I think they're a little bit they were right in the past. Like catalog and products and all of that, it's cool, and we see a lot of recommended product strips and all that. It works to a certain level, but I think that in 2023 we need to be way farther than that, and we need to think. I can suggest two points to think of. One is, you said, right, the stores are static, and we each person usually in best case spends like 3 4 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the store, right? You cannot really learn about the habits, the things that the person likes and all of that. But what you can do, or at least I'll offer some ideas of how we can think about it. The same person that lives in in New York, for example, and buys flowers from merchant A and chocolates for merchant B, right? Both of them are bidding for the same keyword, or even not the same keyword, for the same person on Google and Facebook constantly. Like, it's the same person that buys here and buys there, right? Tools or companies or platforms that see the behavior of this person in this store and in this store can learn a lot about this person, right? And by building smart audiences between stores, we can learn a lot about, anonymously, of course, a lot about different shoppers and how they behave. And we can apply their tastes and preferences across stores anonymously. Like, for example, you're doing, Facebook, it's a huge, for example, or I don't know, TikTok, whatever, it's a huge space where you apply constantly on different pages the preferences and habits based on, you show different ads that are personalized with the situation, stuff like that. That's how you can totally change each store based on the person that gets in and previous information, because you know this person from other places. So only thinking about catalog and product is not enough. And I think this was also one of the problems that actually stopped e-commerce from developing further at the same, not even close to the pace that YouTube and Facebook and social media and all of that, were developed. Another thing that we can think of, so one is really the audiences that just travel between stores. And two, we can think about the real-time behavior of these people in the stores while they're shopping. I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say that you want to buy a suitcase and you're online in a store that sells suitcases, and you have one suitcase for $200 and another one for $100. And you pick the $200 case, you add it to the cart. And then you looked at it again, you read the description, and you decided, you know what, I don't want to spend 200, I want to spend 100. So you removed it from the cart and added the $100 suitcase to the cart. Okay, this type of behavior, there's a lot of decision making in this process, a lot of consideration. If systems in e-commerce would be able to understand this behavior, connected with the demographics and audience data points that they already have, then you can build a really smart engine that reacts in real time and really dynamically changes for example, offers you the $200 suitcase, maybe with a gift or maybe with a discount, or somehow finds a way in real time to offer you the suitcase that you really wanted instead of the $100 suitcase, and push you towards it to create a better experience for you and better revenue for the merchant. But it sounds like very, very far, right? Like from where are we today? And then suddenly you look at e-commerce today and you say, man, you know what? Very primitive, right? Like nobody actually, I mean, in a real store, in a mall or whatever, there will be a sales assistant. If it's, the person is smart and a little bit experienced, he knows, to look at your behavior in the store, offer you things, right when you're checking out. Like this person is constantly looking at you and offering you things. You don't have it in e-commerce. But if you will have a smart engine or something that will know how to do it in real time, then we're starting to get closer to the same level that we have in different social media and other networks. So I think that's a huge opportunity for everyone in the e-commerce space.
100%. Thank you for all the tips, for sharing your knowledge. I value that a lot. I hope the audience value everything that you've been saying and advising them to do. And I hope you guys listening or watching take action. Before we go, I wanted to ask you something that I like asking guests. They started originally because I kind of stopped reading the same books over and over. I read about the same things over and over. So I wanted to learn more about, I don't know, new exciting things to read about. And that's how we put together a list of the 2022 books that everyone mentioned here on the show. So I wanted to ask you if, of course, you have any favorite books to recommend to the audience.
Yeah, I'll recommend two that I find very interesting, and they're very connected to what I discussed. One is The Elements of Choice by Eric Johnson. It's basically, he's talking about choice architecture. It's a whole concept of how people make choices and how to design experiences that drive better choices. And the second book is Purple Cow by Seth Godin. I think that he talks about remarkable products and how to take your product from a regular product and making it a remarkable product. It's a very thin book, like 100 pages, that's it, but an amazing one, full of examples. And you can really get ideas of how you can take a regular product and just make it incredible just by changing a small thing. So I really recommend both of them.
That's awesome. I should have a bell right here with me, ringing it right now, because these are two new books that weren't mentioned last year, because many times, we all read many of the similar things in this space and some books get repeated in the list, but these are two new books. So thank you for those, because I will add them to my wish list for sure. Ben, sorry, Alex, I really enjoyed the conversation today. I really wanted to appreciate your time again. And for those who want to get in touch with you, where they can go to learn more about you and Piggy Story.
Sure. So you can find us at pickystory.com, and also on LinkedIn, you can find me and Picky Story, or basically just Google Picky Story and you will find us.
Awesome. If you're listening to the audio version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or everywhere else, or anywhere else, please head on over to fitgrowthmachine.com, find this episode, and you will find all the resources mentioned by Alex, including the books he just mentioned, which I will read because they sound like they're awesome, right? So again, Alex, thank you for being here. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for inviting me, Brian. It was great. Really